within the space of a week, I just lost all my natural hearing in my right ear. They thought I wasn't deaf enough, that she can speak, she can hear. It wasn't until we got on the pitch and the ball did the talking.
During COVID, I was actually cabin crew for an airline. We deal with quite a lot of different nationalities, but being a hearing person, that was still hard for me to understand.
I couldn't even go out to the shop and sort of get a drink because I couldn't hear anyone and everyone was wearing masks. So I didn't leave the house for 6 months.
What do you hope that kids watching who might be in a similar situation, they get from seeing you on that billboard?
For me, my challenge is permanent and my challenge will always be there, but everyone has challenges. Mine will be there forever, but how we navigate them challenges and overcome them is really important.
Hello and welcome to Full Time Females. I'm your host Amber, and today we have a very special guest. She's the captain of the England Deaf Women's Football team, a trailblazer for para-sport pathways with the FA, and someone who's using her platform to push more inclusive and representation in football. Welcome, Zara.
Thank you very much. Honestly, it is an honour to be on the podcast. I think talking about para, talking about a bit about my life and things like that, hopefully people will take a little bit from what I say today, which is the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you, because it was you that got in contact with us, so I really appreciate that. It's really good to share a different aspect of the sport. So we might as well just dive straight into it. Let's start about when you were younger, how you got into football.
Yeah, so sort of growing up, people ask me this question all the time, how did you get into football? What happened? Where were you? And honestly, it's so long ago now, obviously nearly 29 this year, so I've really got to think about it now. But I grew up in a family of sort of footballers. Football, like everyone played football. My brothers played football. My mum and my dad played football. It was just
Oh,
a
wow.
sporty household. Yeah. My mum was actually a really, really good footballer. It was the other day I was looking through sort of some of the stuff at home, and she's got this big notebook of all these articles in the newspaper about her scoring goals, and I was like, oh, that's not me.
That's
Um,
so cool.
yeah, my dad played, my brother played, a really good player, so I just played all the time, and I was thinking about this before about how it became such a prevalent sport in my life, and I guess my mum was training to be a nurse, and my dad had his own business, so on the summer holidays we'd often not have any sort of childcare, and the childcare would be to sort of go to football camps and go to the summer schools where I'd just play football all the time, and at that time it was just the boys and it was just me and the boys, and I think that sort of environment, it was just a non-negotiable for me to, like, when it was the summer holidays I knew I was going to play football for 2 weeks or 6 weeks or 4 weeks, and it was sort of 9 till 3 playing, and I think that's where I really developed sort of my love for the game, and I was following Blackburn Rovers at the time. They were in the Premier League and I used to go and watch every Saturday. It was just my life. It was my life.
How did you find it being the only girl? Because obviously, I'm same age as you, so like being the only girl when we were growing up, it was mainly lads that played football, and we would be the odd one out. How did you adapt with that?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this as well. It's quite a hard one because at that time, especially when you go to the football camps and you're a girl who can play, it's sometimes quite nice because it's like, oh, there's a girl here that can play. But and then in other instances, like you'd be the last one to get picked, or you'd be the one that they didn't really want to pick. But then when they picked you and you were on the team, they were like, oh, she's good, she can play, she can do this. And I think the when I was younger, the playing field was a lot more level. Um, so obviously, as boys get older and as women get older, obviously, physiologically things change, and it's a little bit more obvious that you struggle a little bit more as a woman. But when you're sort of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's kind of there's not much difference. And I played with my brothers for so long and the boys on the street, so the playing field was quite level for a number of years. And it was at the sort of the summer camps that I remember going, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're going to pick her. She's going to be on our team. This, that, and the other." So I did have some good experiences. I think the experiences that were hard were when I was in primary school and there wasn't a girls' team and I couldn't play in the boys' team. Like it was like you're not allowed to play in the boys' team.
Right. So I had the same. I remember. I think it was like GCSEs. I wanted to pick football in PE, but I wasn't allowed to play with the boys, so I had to do like netball, and it was like, but I play football, and I want to pick football as one of my sports, and it wasn't allowed. And
Exactly the same for me.
yeah,
Exactly the same.
yeah,
Every PE lesson was netball, and I was so bad at it. I used to play centre because I was like, that's the only position I can play where I can run everywhere but the D.
it's literally the
And
same.
I used to just get the ball, and then I used to start running with it, and everyone was like,
What are you
yeah,
doing?
that's a foul. And then I used to be too close to people, like jumping up, and they were like, yeah, that's a foul. And I was like, this is not the game for me. So PE in high school was really, really difficult. And I didn't get to play that much football, but at that time I was playing at quite a high level out of school. So every night I'd be, well, every other night I'd be sort of getting in the car straight after school. My mum would be picking me up outside the door and taking me to training.
How did you find, obviously, we'll get into you being deaf and how you've adapted to that. How did you find, obviously, growing up in your younger years, being deaf? Because you played football with mixed abilities at first, right?
Yeah, so actually, I'm the only person with a hearing loss in my family. So nobody came across anyone with a hearing loss before me. So, I was actually born with hearing. So I didn't have hearing loss. I was born with hearing, and it was like I got to like the age of 2, and my mum. So this story is sort of what my mum tells me at that age. I don't really know what's going on. She said that I was born hearing, and I was responding to sounds, and I've sort of developed speech, and everything was sort of going the way it needed to go. Um, and then at the age of like 2, I wasn't responding to some sound. There was some music that I used to like listening to, and I was telling my mum I couldn't hear it or I needed her to turn it up, and she was just like, "It something's not quite right." And back in sort of before the 2000s, so late 1990s, 98, there wasn't really much development on sort of newborn hearing screenings and how to sort of identify hearing losses in babies. It was you go to the doctors and they sort of rattle something behind your head and then they'd be like, yes, you can hear. Um, so yeah, at the age of 2, I went to sort of a specialist audiology. So audiology is all ears. We go and get your ears tested, and it was then that they diagnosed that I had a hearing loss in both ears. Um, yeah, so it was a really probably more difficult for my parents at that time because um, it was the first person in the family that had a hearing loss, and back then there was a stigma. There is a stigma to disabilities. We're getting better now, and obviously as society and social media are progressing, disability is more prevalent and people are achieving with disabilities. But back then there wasn't anyone, and it was kind of like what we're going to do. And I remember my mum saying one of the key things was the doctor sat down and said, don't teach her to sign, don't teach her to use sign language because she'll never speak. So teach her to speak. Yeah, so that's quite difficult, especially as we sort of progress through my story of like my deaf identity. That communication barrier was really difficult for me. But like I do think if I'd have learned to sign and not speak, then I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation with you today. So there is sort of swings and roundabouts to it. I guess from my point of view, and this is just my perspective, that if I learning to speak is really, really difficult and capturing that window is really important. I can always learn to sign at a later date.
Yes. So would you, like, from your own personal experience then, say there was someone in the same situation your family's been in, you would maybe recommend them teach them to speak and then learn sign language?
I think both together. I think both
Okay.
together is really complementary. I think uh, sort of learning to speak and sign, it complements because it allows that child to then decide what method of communication is best for them and the family as well. So I think that's really important, and it's quite a taboo subject. It's quite a subject that's everyone's got different opinions on, so it's quite hard to navigate that sort of area. So yeah, when I got to 2, we sort of fitted me with 2 hearing aids, and I kind of just navigated my life with 2 hearing aids for a long time. It was sort of from the age of 2 to 24. So I navigated. I was the only person, like I said, in my family with a hearing loss, and I never met anyone with a hearing loss till I was 13 or 14. So I went such a long period of my time of my life thinking that it was only me. It was
Oh, wow. And how, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've obviously done some research and read up, and um, in COVID, so you're about 18 months, 2 years old. You had partial loss of hearing, and then COVID hit, and you lost all your hearing completely.
Yeah, so at that time with my left ear's always not really had any hearing in, so I've never really relied on that left ear. My right ear was the ear that I really relied on with the hearing aid, and navigated my whole life pretty much with that right ear, which was absolutely fine. And then in COVID, yeah, July 2020, we'd just gone into one of the lockdowns, and within the space of a week, I just lost all my natural hearing in my right ear. I just woke up and it was just getting worse, and then it all gone, and I had to sort of navigate not just COVID, but then I had to navigate sort of where my life was going to go, because I'd built this life in what I call a hearing world. Everything I did was with hearing people, and when you lose that sense of hearing, how then do you work? How do you socialize? How do I couldn't even go out to the shop and sort of get a drink because I couldn't hear anyone and everyone was wearing masks. So I sort of spent 6 months in the house. I didn't leave the house for 6 months.
So, yeah, because obviously everyone was wearing a mask during COVID, so how that must have been very difficult for you.
Yeah, I mean, I did develop a little bit more confidence as the months went on, and I think one of the main things is, and I haven't really touched on this much, but one of the main things is when you go to a shop and you get something, I preempted what someone was going to say. So I knew she was going to say it's this amount, and then I touched the card, and then I knew she was going to say, would you like a bag? Would you like a receipt?
So
So
it's almost like a routine.
I
And
knew what was going to come out of my
yeah,
mouth. I couldn't necessarily hear her, but I had the
yeah.
responses for the words that I thought she was going to say.
Wow. Because, I mean, during COVID, I was actually cabin crew for an airline, and obviously we deal with quite a lot of different nationalities. English isn't always their first language, but being a hearing person, that was still hard for me to understand, whereas you were just completely lost your hearing.
Yeah, everything
Wow.
stopped. My life
Yeah.
stopped. My work stopped, and I was fortunate during COVID in the first period that I worked in a hospital where I could still go to work. I could still socialize. It was still open. So everything stopped, and at that time I didn't realize how much growing up no one spoke about my hearing loss. No one did. I didn't speak about it. Um, to my friends, my family, I was just me. I was just Zara who played football. Football was my identity. And at that time when I lost all my hearing, people and I've just literally disappeared off the face of the earth, and people were like, where are you? Like, what's happened? What's going on? And I couldn't I couldn't verbalize what happened, because I'd never ever spoken about my story. I'd never spoken about my hearing loss. I'd never sort of navigated. Also, I was sort of navigating my life coming to a halt. I was meant to be starting my master's in exercise physiology at Liverpool John Moores. I'd put a deposit down on a flat. I was going to go and live in Liverpool, and I had to sort of email them and say I can't do it. Like, I can't hear. Like, I can't attend this course, and I stopped working. I was really fortunate that I worked with my mum, and she managed to get me some admin from home. Um, but yeah, it was a really rough 6 months, and then I was waiting for sort of the cochlear implant that I'd never heard of before, and someone was like, "You're gonna have to go for this. That this is the next thing. This is the only thing that's gonna this is the only thing left. This is the only chance we've got." But that period of not knowing whether I was ever going to hear again, and thinking, where am I going to go? Like, it is a hearing world for me. My life's built in has been built in. I didn't know, like, was I going to have to go and live somewhere else? Was I going to have to learn sign language? What about my friends, my family? Like, it was really rough, and the only way that I told people about what was going on is I had to write it. I had to, like, type it out, and I started typing out a blog, and um, I sent it to, like, even my best friend. I could not tell her face to face what was going on. I sent her this blog and said, look, read this. This is what's going on, and it was just, yeah, it was just a lot at that time.
So how did you overcome that then? Because that must have, obviously it's a very big life event that's happened. So you got the cochlear implant.
Yeah,
No?
so I
Yeah.
had to wait 6 months for the implant. There's a big
Right.
process around it. I had to go to many appointments, and I
Mhm.
think navigating that time was, I'm going to make it work. Like, I've got this thing, I'm focusing on it. Like, I'm going to make it work. I did a lot of research on it. I reached out to some people. I had some support. Like, at this time, when I didn't have any hearing and I'm waiting for something, I had to get my mum to ring up for appointments. I had to get people to, like, I lost all my independence. I was 24 years old, and I had to get my mum to come with me to appointments. It was like I'd regressed. It was like I'd gone back to being a child again. Like I had this independence, and I needed someone to help me, which I hadn't had. I'd lived out in America, and I'd been away, and I'd done stuff on my own, and flying around the country on my own. And then I had to get people to help me. So I was waiting 6 months for this implant, and um, everything, every fiber in my being was like, it's going to work. I'm going to make it work. Like, and I think it's just that internal sort of. I think it's these challenges, and I talk about challenges, and we talk about disabilities, but I sort of say like it's a challenge, and for me, my challenge is permanent, and my challenge will always be there. But everyone has challenges, whether it's bereavement, whether it's financial, whether it's illness, whether it's just whatever. Everyone has challenges, and like I said, mine will be there forever. But how we navigate them challenges and overcome them is really important, and everyone's got their own way of doing that. So I had to wait for the implant for 6 months, and I started writing these blogs and sending them to people, and like the people that were closest to me, and got the support. But during that time, it was still COVID.
People of hearing and navigating something new. Yours was obviously that extra thing. Coming obviously from you had hearing, then you completely lost it for 6 months. What would you say that being in a hearing world, what we could do better? Like, obviously, you said your mum was ringing up for appointments, or do you know, like processes? I think living in Dubai and going back to the UK sometimes, I do think the NHS is slightly outdated in the way we book appointments, etc. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm a massive advocate now for sort of accessibility, communication, awareness of um, disabilities. I think it's something that we're going to have to continue to fight for and continue to shout about. There is sort of legal legislations that are in place that are not being adhered to, and for people now, especially working in the field of audiology, and being in in this industry at the minute, is it's sad when people who can't take a phone call need to phone the doctors for an appointment. It's just inaccessible, and it leads to sort of health complications and misdiagnoses, and sort of people not understanding treatment because the communication's not there. And it is sad, and it's something that it is prevalent. And I've done quite a bit of research, been fortunate enough to do my masters and do some research on sort of statistics, and disability is more prevalent than ever, and it is going to continue to rise. Hearing loss is going to continue to rise. There's an age-related hearing loss, and then there's other types of hearing loss, and as we live longer, it's more prevalent. So it's just about sort of planting those seeds, as I say, and it's one of them things that we just need to keep chipping away at.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you said, it's definitely about education. Unfortunately, it seems, obviously, having this conversation with yourself, people of hearing can be quite ignorant to others that, they take it for
Yeah,
granted, let's say.
for me, a massive sort of statement is education empowers. It really does. It really empowers. And I think just having that one chat, or and it doesn't come from a bad place. It just comes from a place that we want everyone to be able to fit in. We want everyone to be able to um, do what they want to do. We want everyone to be successful in whatever way they want to be successful. And captions is a big one. I think it takes 2 minutes to put captions on for people, and I even get my friends now, like hearing friends and not got any sort of hearing loss. They use subtitles on the TV. Um, it's difficult. I mean, it's one of them where I'm doing quite a lot of work behind the scenes on trying to improve communication, and that will come. Like society, honestly, if I was born, it is facts that if I was born 30 years before sort of when I was born, that I don't know where I'd be right now. I wouldn't have any access to hearing. Technology's evolved. The cochlear implant has saved my life. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to have this chat with you right now. I wouldn't be able to go to work. I wouldn't be, it's technologies as it's evolving. It's meaning that there's more opportunities.
Let's take it back to, you said you were traveling to the US. Let's talk a bit about your football career. Um, you got a US scholarship?
Yeah, so obviously loved football. Football was my life. I dreamt about it. I Everything was football related. I was not bothered about school. I was not bothered about education. I was not bothered about working. I just wanted to play football, and I think that it was just something that I loved to do. And I was really, really fortunate to go through play at Blackburn Rovers. Um, Centre of Excellence at the time, which was arguably one of the best centre of excellences in the country. I played there for most of my childhood, and then they decided that it was a bit of a struggle to get into WSL, and there was some funding, so I had to look at different ways. I went to Everton for a season, but my my sort of ambition was to go and play out in the States, and I think um, that was a big thing for me. I went to a football college, so it was literally a college where I just wanted to play football, and that's what I did. I played football every day, and we went to lessons in the afternoon. I wasn't bothered about the lessons; we just played, and I was playing every day at the age of sort of 17, 18. I was playing every day, and then I was fortunate to get a scholarship and go out to Tennessee in 2015. Yeah, my experiences in America was a little bit difficult. Um, as it is sort of education based out there as well, and I wasn't interested in that. And I had a great sort of first 4 or 5 months, and I got quite a bad injury. I got an ankle injury that I just couldn't really shake off, and it left me on the sidelines for quite a bit, and I had to go to the college and university and lessons, and I just didn't. I just wanted to play football, and I really struggled at the time. And then I made the decision in the December to come back home. It was it was quite a cutthroat it, environment. I think when you're an international student who gets a scholarship out into America, they want you to play no matter what. And unfortunately for me, that the manager of the team at that time, he was like, "You need to play on this injury. You need to play on this injury. Like you'll be back next week." And I really struggled with that. I was a little bit homesick, and I was also just turned 18, and I felt like I didn't really have the confidence and the power to be like, look, I'm really injured. I need to rest. So in the December, I decided to come back, and that was a pivotal moment for me deciding what I was going to do in my football going forward.
Obviously, you've had quite a few setbacks. Obviously, injury in the US, yeah, here and during COVID. How do you get through these sort of moments?
Yeah, I think it's a really tough question that, and it's a tough one to answer. And I think like I said, I look at them as challenges, and I think everything in my life has been a challenge. I've had plenty of challenges, but I've always been someone who works hard. I'm not necessarily the most talented player, but I will give 110%, and I really believe in the 1% and the habits. And I've noticed that for me, exercise and sport has always been something that's given me the resilience and given me sort of these transferable skills, I would say, into my everyday life. So people sort of overlook the fact that when you're a child and you're sort of in grassroots football and it's getting to groups and you're losing 1-0, like what you're going to do about it. They're the moments that I look back to now that transfer to my everyday life. Like at the minute I'm losing 1-0, how am I going to get to 2-1?
That's such a good outlook to have, honestly. Um, let's take it to you're the captain of the Deaf Women's Futsal team. Amazing. Um, how was it when you first? I know you went to camps, right? You went to England camps first. How was that transition? Because you've gone from being a minority, and now you're kind of not. You can kind of half hear. There's probably players that are more deaf than you at the time. How was that?
Yeah. So that period in my life, I was 13, 14. I was navigating high school. I was sort of, I was not the sort of the nicest kid at that time. I had a little bit of an attitude, a bit of an ego, a little bit of strutting around, playing football, sort of just thinking football's my life. I'm gonna do this, that, and school was a little bit difficult at this time. I just wanted to fit in, and I think fitting in for me at that time was to be a little bit rebellious and be a little bit sort of cheeky, and that was sort of the persona that I've always sort of had. I've had that sort of, she's always laughing, she's always joking, she's a little bit mischievous, and getting to sort of 13, and at that time I never knew there was a deaf futsal team. I never knew, and I never even knew there was other girls playing that had a hearing loss. So it wasn't when I was at Blackburn. we used to have sort of the FA would used to come in and sort of they must have like marked the centre and made sure everything was running right. And the woman that came in noticed that I had two hearing aids, and she was asking my coach, oh, can she come and play for the England futsal team? And I resisted for a number of years. I was like, no, that's not me. I haven't got a hearing loss. That's not the team for me. I'm in this hearing team. My aspirations are to play for the women's team. Um, and that was it for sort of a couple of years, and then they asked again, and I'll never forget. I had the chat with sort of the technical director at that time. He pulled me to the side at training, and I thought, oh no, what have I done now? Am I in trouble again? And he was like, look, they want you to go and play. It's an opportunity. Why don't you try it? If you don't like it, you come away. Like it's a trial. Um, you never really your hearing loss is there forever, and why don't you use it to your advantage? Why don't you look at what you can do? So I decided to go to St George's Park, and it was actually the weekend after they'd just opened it. Um, so they just opened St George's Park, and I remember going. Obviously, I couldn't drive at that time. My mum picked me up from school, so I got to leave school early, and I was driving there, and I was so nervous at 13, and went into St George's Park, and yeah, I got introduced to the team, and they were all signing, and I couldn't, and I felt like the odd one out, and it was really humbling for me, and I didn't it's not till now, sort of as I've got older, that I realised the impact of that on me. And it was really, really difficult because here I was with all these players that were on a similar playing field to me in terms of a disability, but I felt like the odd one out. I couldn't communicate with them, and because I spoke and I had quite good speech, and I'd always masked my hearing loss. No one ever knew that I had a hearing loss. It was just like, she's got a hearing aid, but she can hear everything. Um, they thought I wasn't deaf enough, and it went round that like she's not deaf enough to play in this team. Like she can speak, she can hear. Um, so I really struggled, and it wasn't until we got on the pitch and the board did the talking, and they were like, "Yeah, we want her." So
Wow.
that's yeah, and I remember the first couple of camps ringing my dad and saying, "Dad, I need you to come and pick me up. Like I don't want to be here." And he was like, "No, I'm not coming to pick you up." And that is the best thing that ever happened to me. If he'd
Yeah,
have
the
come and
tough
picked
love
me
you
up,
needed. Yeah.
if he'd have come and picked me up, I wouldn't have the story that I've got now. I wouldn't have the accolades that I've got now. So the best thing that ever happened was when I rang my dad to pick me up, he said, "No, I'm not coming to get you."
Well, you needed it, and it was the right thing to do. So thank you, Dad.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate that one.
You've said obviously playing with the deaf team helped you feel like the real you. Um, what's flipped for you? What's made you see it as a strength, maybe? Not something holding you back.
Yeah, my life changed in 2015. So at the age of 13, 14, 15 and 16, I couldn't play in any tournaments. So I spent them years just training. It was literally one weekend a month that we would meet up and we would play. And then I'd go and play, go back to this hearing world, not see anyone with a hearing loss for another 3, 4 weeks, and then come back. And it was in and out of this world. Um, and in 2015, I got asked to go to the European Championships in Bulgaria, and it changed my life. And I don't really know what happened. I can't pinpoint what it did to me, but we went through that tournament and we absolutely excelled, exceeded expectations, and we got to sort of the semi-final against Germany, and we were winning 5-0 at half time. And I was sat in the changing rooms of sort of a 17-year-old thinking, like, we're going to win this. Like my first Euros, we're going to win it. I didn't know what to expect. The standard at that time wasn't sort of as good as it is now. So I really did excel playing sort of at such a high level in a hearing team to come into sort of that deaf tournament, and we were winning 5-0 at half time, and we ended up losing 7-6 in the semi-final in the second half, and it broke me. It absolutely, like, I never didn't think I had the emotion inside me. And everyone was like, "What's wrong with Zara? What's happened?" It was like someone had died. Like that's the only way I can describe it. And since that moment, I've just been like, it's just such an honour and a privilege to sort of put an England top on, put an England kit on. Everyone's rooting for you. And at that time, social media wasn't the same, so the FA didn't really sort of promote para. We were always behind the scenes. We were sort of we would train on the weekend when no one was there, and we'd get shuffled out. We'd get sort of nobody knew us. We just represented England, and that was it. Whereas now it's all over social media. When we go to tournaments, there's press, there's this, there's that. But that moment for me in 2015 as a 17-year-old, losing that game against Germany, something inside me changed.
How, obviously, going from playing football with hearing for someone who has hearing and like wanting to understand, how do you communicate when it comes to deaf football or futsal?
So the format, obviously, we all take off any sort of devices, so any cochlear implants come off, any hearing aids come out. You, basically, they're trying to create a level playing field when there's everyone's limited to hearing. So it is very much visual, some basic sign language, some basic signs, but we do a lot away from the pitch in terms of tactical information that we all just have to try and remember. So it's a lot of it's very common that sort of it's really weird because in sort of a hearing team, if I was to go up to someone and sort of move them, physically move them, they'd be like, "Why are you touching me?" Whereas in sort of when I play the deaf format and playing deaf futsal, that is normal. Like it is normal for me to just quickly go up to someone and just move them into position and just be like, or just use my hands and my gestures to sort of move. But the real crucial thing to it is that we're all prepared before games, and we have sort of it is similar to sort of hearing teams with corners and set pieces. We have 1, 2, 3 or A, B, C. We all know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's, I was going to say, is guess it's obviously a lot more analytical because you need to know formats and set pieces, etc. But futsal's very much like that anyway, isn't it? Like set pieces. I remember it still haunts me to this day. Varsity at uni, and we did a set piece, and then I took the corner, and the other team scored, and we actually lost. And I was like, "Oh, that's so my fault." Like it's hard. Futsal's really hard to do it in a deaf
Futsal
team.
is the most intense game ever. You can be
Yeah,
winning 5-0 at half time and lose 7-6, and that is the most devastating but exciting thing about futsal is nothing's off limits. We can be 2-0 down with 5 minutes to go and still win the
yeah,
game.
and
And
they're
that's
quite
what I
high
love.
scoring games as well, aren't they? Like futsal,
Yeah.
people who might not know futsal who are watching might be like 7-6, but like that's not even that high. That's good.
I mean, yeah, futsal's so intense, and that's why I love it because I got so much more of the ball. So I still do try and play a little bit of 11 aside, but when I play 11 aside, I've got to be in sort of centre mid because I'm like, I need this ball. Like I can't go sort of 10 seconds without it because I'm so used to it with futsal, short, sharp passes, very technical. Um, but going back to sort of the deaf format, our coach is actually hearing. So obviously during the whole game, we don't have any access to sound. A lot of us, some people have a little bit of residual hearing left where they can pick up a bit of sound, but for most of us, then the communication with the coaches, that's really, really important during the game. So before we even get off the bus to go into the venue, everything's off because you can get,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so we're really fortunate within the FA now that we've got the money to spend on technology. So we have iPads where the iPad sort of caption, he'll have a little mouthpiece, and then he'll talk into that and it'll come through the iPad, and we've got two interpreters. So the FA are really, really trying to make sure that we get the communication that we need, but it's still very, very difficult trying to concentrate on that communication, but the mental energy of the game and being in the moment for the game.
Yeah, that you have like a lot to think about before a match.
Yeah, it's exhausting. It is exhausting, and think people forget that we're trying to ensure that we're getting all the information before, during, and after the game, but also play at such a high level, representing your country, and the pressure's on. Whenever you play for England, every team, the pressure's on.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, being a woman captain in para sports puts you, obviously, you're in two very important places, women's sport and also disability sport. How do you think that's shaped your role or shaped how you lead, even like the England women's team?
Yeah, I always say to people, I've grown up through power pathway, so I've seen power sport from nothing to what it is now, and hopefully over the next sort of 5, 6, 7 years, however long my body gives me, I'll get to see it continue to grow. And um, I've, it's changed me as a person. I'm a lot more mature. I'm a lot more calm. I'm a lot more. I've sort of nurtured myself into different roles, and at the beginning, I was sort of this young 13, 14, 15-year-old, bit of an ego, a little bit of a attitude, sort of strutted around, and but it came from a good place. It came from a place that I just wanted to be successful, and all I've ever wanted to do is prove to people that I'm the same as someone else, and I didn't want to be thought of as any different. Um, so sort of being the captain has really allowed me to sort of improve other skills and really hone on them other skills, communication, leadership, and composure, and um, that's sort of a quality that is sort of said about me now, that I'm very composed on the pitch, and it comes from experience, and it comes from being in high pressured environments in and out of sport that allow me to sort of I like to be known as the player that will come on, and the game relaxes and people feel comfortable, and that wasn't once the case. I used to come on and it used to be like, she's going to demand this of me, she's going to demand that of me, and the ways that I get the best out of others now is has changed for me, and it's navigating that as a captain, and obviously new people come into the team, and it's learning people, and it's having them people skills on and off the pitch.
I think that obviously it's the FA are doing a lot more now, which is quite good. Well, they seem to be doing a lot more for para sport. I've read like they're mixing the squads, they're bringing people together, they're pushing it a lot more. From your side, does it seem like they're moving forward in the right
100%.
direction?
100%. Power sport at the minute is in one of the best places it's ever been in, and I honestly believe that it will continue to grow. There's so many inspirational and sort of powerful people behind the scenes that have helped elevate power sport. Sue Campbell being one of them, Kath Gilby, James Watkins, like they're names that have have just sort of allowed para football to evolve and continue. And like I said at the beginning, no one knew us, and now we're getting the opportunity to do the games, and
I was about
we're
to come
sort of,
on to that.
yeah. I mean, the
How was that?
2024,
Yeah,
yeah, the
because
2024 kit launch was really big. It's the first time that para sort of the power players have been involved in that, and it was honestly, I think it changed everything for me as well. I was getting messages about me sort of being on a billboard, me being in different places. Um, that really did change things for me.
what what do you hope that kids watching who might be in a similar situation they get from seeing you on that billboard or seeing the campaign?
I think it's just raising power football, raising awareness, and raising sort of just letting people see that they can be. I didn't have the role model, like I didn't have a role model when I was younger. Like my goal now is to sort of be the role model that I never had, and doing these things, and even these sort of chats with you and everything else that I do alongside things, and saying yes to opportunities, it just makes people see, allows little young girls and boys to see that they can achieve things that I once couldn't achieve because it wasn't available to me. The opportunity wasn't.
If I'm just thinking now, like if you could change one thing in football to make it more inclusive, whether that's grassroots or the elite level that you're at now, what would you say needs to be changed?
Education. I'd say education. There needs to be more education in disability, in power, in different sort of disabilities that can be young kids can have that come into young teams now. I'm really sort of um, promoting grassroots, and I think we underestimate the power of grassroots. Without grassroots, nobody will take my shirt. If the young girl doesn't feel like she's welcomed, or the young boy doesn't feel like he's welcomed and he can fit into grassroots sport, because that's where everyone starts, then I don't have someone that takes my shirt, and I want someone to come along that's bigger and better than me to take my shirt and lead and continue to lead.
I saw the FA are now they're doing these para talent days. So hopefully that makes it obviously easier for younger players to get noticed. But I know you've mentioned like you had the conversation at Blackburn to get into, but how different was it back then to how it is now to being spotted?
Yeah, social media, with how social media has evolved and the power of social media now, it's one post can reach thousands of people, whereas it was one conversation to one person back then. The spreading that awareness is massive, and with Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, anything, it just means that it can reach more people, and the more people it reaches, the conversation continues.
Definitely. And you know, what would your piece of advice be to, there's a young deaf girl or boy and they're turning up to one of these para talent days? What would you say to them?
I would just say enjoy. I think I lived a lot of my life sort of with the pressure of um, football. Football was everything, and sometimes that pressure is difficult. And I think the best times I've had from um, playing football, playing futsal, have come when I've enjoyed it, when the pressure's off, and it's not about everyone's success is different, and it might not be about playing for England. It might not be about being the best at everything, but it's about being happy and enjoying your life. And I think sometimes we forget about that. We put so much pressure on ourselves to sort of just be the best, when it's like, are you happy? Are you enjoying it? Because when I enjoyed it, I played the best. I played my best futsal. I get so many more opportunities. I've been more successful in my life when I've just enjoyed it. And I think there's many times when um, winning accolades, yeah, that's brilliant. But did I enjoy it? Did I enjoy the process? Did I enjoy the journey? And I think the journey to get into winning the Euros in 2022 or winning Deaf Sports Personality, it's not the winning, it's the journey to get there. And the journey to get there is the most powerful thing. So I'd just say enjoy it, and you never know like the opportunities that can arise. And I'd just try and take every opportunity that you can within reason.
Yeah, oh, that's a great bit of advice because I just think when you look back on things and experiences, it's the feeling it gave you, not what actually happened.
Yeah, I mean the run up to the European Championships in 2022 when we won that, it wasn't necessarily the win that was the best thing. It was how I got to that win. That year was really rough. I obviously was navigating my hearing loss. I was learning to rehear again, and then I lost all. I had a really significant balance attack where I couldn't walk. I lost all my balance in both my ears, and um, so the journey to get to that win was way more memorable than actually winning. And don't get me wrong, the feeling of lifting a cup and winning a European Championships, nothing will ever top that. But for me personally, I try to look at how I got there and what sort of person that made me and how I become a better person after that.
Do you, with regards, you mentioned about grassroots and you're doing a lot of work in that space. Do you think coaches can do better within grassroots to accommodate for disabilities?
I think Yeah, I think grassroots is really, really important, and it's really important that coaches make sessions accessible and the communications there if needed. And I think it's about asking questions that are a little bit uncomfortable. Nobody likes to be in uncomfortable situations. Nobody likes to ask uncomfortable questions in case they offend someone. But actually, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond sort of, does that young boy or that young girl feel like they're accepted in that community? Do they feel accepted in that team? Because if they do, that means that they'll feel accepted in other areas of their life. It'll give them confidence. Um, and I think little things for me, such as uh, one of the biggest things is when we sort of get delivered a session, a football session, keeping the bibs the same colour as sort of the so when you use the whiteboard and you have the little spots of who's on what team, so it's usually like red and blue, then making sure that the bibs are that colour as well. So then it's like it's easier to process that information. Um, or the cones are the same colour, so that when you're doing it on the board, you can understand what the session is a little bit better because the cones are the same colour as the spots on.
It's these small changes that can actually make such a big difference to someone else. Um, and finally, while we wrap it up here, what would you say to a young girl listening who has a disability, maybe feels like, I can't do this, but really, really loves the sport? What's your advice to her?
I would 100% say to reach out to someone. I think there's lots more role models now that are more accessible. I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have someone to sort of reach out to and be like, "Oh, I'm going through this. Is there any way I can navigate that?" Like, I went through a lot of my challenges on my own. I had to navigate it myself, but there's so much more support out there. And I think life's hard. Everyone has challenges. It's hard for everyone, and I think I've grown up going through lots of different challenges, and it will always be hard, and there's going to be more challenges to come. And I know that as I navigate through my life, another challenge will be presented, and it's about being realistic and knowing that these challenges are going to be there. But there is support out there now. There's a lot more stuff online. There's role models on social media, on Instagram. You look at the likes of Jodie Allen's, the Gladiators. You look at Strictly Come Dancing, Rose of Strictly Come Dancing. There's, from a hearing point of view, there's so many more role models out there. It's about looking, and there's so much more. People speak about the challenges now. People are open and honest, and having those honest conversations. I think it's, yeah, probably getting some support.
Yeah, I feel like now, obviously, there is still a long road to go with inclusivity. However, now with social media, more and more people are speaking out. You do see it more often than obviously when we were younger. So I'd hope as time goes on, it is going to only get better and better.
Yeah, definitely. And I think my role in that is sort of trying to excel and succeed in para, because obviously the more we succeed, um, the more people see, and the more people can see sort of success from a power point of view. And sometimes I say to myself a lot, well, a lot of the times I don't do things for myself anymore. I do it for someone else to come into my position, or someone that's sat at home who's going through things that I once went through and I didn't see anyone else sort of being successful with. So a lot of the stuff that I do now, whether it's work, whether it's football, whether it's extra things away from the pitch, is for young girls and boys who feel like they can't do what they want to do because their disability is holding them back.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for coming on today. It's honestly been really eye-opening, and everything you're doing for Parasport Pathways is honestly, it's incredible. Um,
Thank you so much for having me.
if you want to check out Zara, Zara, I'll let you tag your handles.
Yeah, my Instagram's Zara_Musker on Instagram. That's the main source of social media. But I'm always willing to sort of, if anyone's listening that's sort of trying to navigate a disability or wanting to get into para football, my inbox is always open.
Amazing. And I'll tag the Power Pathways, the FA, etc. I'll drop some links in. But Zara, thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Thank you.